everyone, and welcome to episode 235 of Fans of Power. I am Joe Amato, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Tyler T-Rex Baker, and Nasty Nate's going to be taking a break for basically almost all the episode. I don't know if he'll join up later in the Q&A. We'll see. He might not. But today we have a very special guest. He's not only a Masters of the Universe fan and Princess of Power fan, but he's somebody who's actually worked on these properties, and we're honored to have him on the show, Emiliano Santalucia. So, Emiliano, thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, before we get into discussing, your homecoming project and some of the great artists from the past and stuff, for those people who might not know who you are, why don't you tell everybody a little bit of something about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. I'll try to be very quick. I'm currently a toy designer, and I design toys mostly for Hasbro, but also for other companies. But I started my career as a professional illustrator drawing comic books, and I started with He-Man comic books with MV Creations. We did the 2002 comic along with the Mike Young production show and the Four Horsemen toy line with Mattel, of course. And after that, I did some other comics for G.I. Joe and Transformers, so always toy related. And that eventually led me into chasing a job as a toy designer. And basically the rest is history. I've been doing this for almost 12 years now.
Oh, and definitely me and Tyler can agree that I think the MVC comics, that was the last time we actually enjoyed Masters of the Universe comics, because we haven't been into the stuff these days. It's just horrible. But I'm going to pass it off to Tyler, because this is probably the first time Tyler's spoken with you, and he can hit you with some stuff before we start getting into everything.
Sure, yes.
I've spoken to Emiliano one time. I think it was like 10 years ago, and I got the balls to contact him about a commission. And I just didn't have the money. But it was my one time of connecting with, and I kind of feel like I had to walk with my tail between my legs because, oh my God, I can't afford his rate, and I just feel like such an asshole. And that was the only time I ever spoke to Emiliano. Anything beyond that was just seeing where he would post about stuff or seeing him interviewed about things like that. So I almost felt like this is a getting to talk with various people in the community. It's been an honor for me because I felt like this podcast is it's like doing all those crossover specials, almost like finally getting to converse with these people that I've seen since your website of Masters Unbound, which is that website I went to pretty religiously, and to finally converse with you one on one, I'm like, holy shit, man! I'm getting to sit down and talk with Emiliano, and not just some random asshole fan. I'm actually getting to it's an honor to finally yeah, dude. I got a lot to say. Dude. So
thank you. Well, for me, even if this is my professional life now, I never stopped feeling just a fan like you guys. This is where I come from, and I'm still part of it. Maybe I changed a bit the way I interact, of course, because it's also a need of my job. There is sometimes you can talk about the stuff you do, and eventually you cannot talk anymore because that's our legal requirement, basically. But I still feel at home. Of course, lots of things changed, even the Italian websites and communities have shifted a lot to a lot of new fans that have never been in the same community of the people I got to know earlier. So it's has changed. It's weird, but it's still feel like home for me, and I still just feel like a regular fan.
And you're still doing a lot of collecting, trying to find a lot of the rare stuff, because we know you go for a lot of the rare collectibles too.
Yeah. I you know what? I've become less of a completist lately. Yeah. I decided to stop with certain things. I just pick what I really like, and I gave up on chasing certain things. Like for some time I was thinking, okay, I'll buy a lot of variants, but when I started working on this toy guide that you may have heard about, that we've been working with the foundation for the past 8 years now, when I realized how many variants there are, I said, okay, that's not for me. I mean, really, there are over 70 different He-Man just the regular He-Man. Over
That's
7.
crazy.
Yeah, it's
Jeez.
just impossible. Yeah, we
And it
are.
seems and stuff always keeps popping up. That's not only just the variants of the
Yeah.
figures, but there's always some weird merchandise. Like
Yeah.
I've never seen this. I never heard of this, and it's all these different countries. And hell, even the United States, there's still always something that pops up, and you
Yeah.
can't believe it. When you think you've seen it all, you haven't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's fantastic because there is always something new to be surprised of. And you know, as a collector, there is this point where you say, okay, I won't stress trying to have everything because it's just impossible. I'll just,
Right.
if I'm lucky, I find something, I'll get it. I'll chase maybe something I like a lot and I really want it, but I'll be happy with what I come across and what I have. Not stress too much about trying to have every single item that there is out there.
Definitely, because you can't. But
Yeah.
all right. Well, I was going to say we're going to probably transition into Homecoming because we did this about last month. I mean, it was a fantastic comic to talk about. The fans were really into it, and they were wondering about, can we see these actual images? So you put together a page on Facebook for it. So we put that in the link. But again, now this is probably where I'm going to pass it to Tyler again, because when it came to Homecoming, I knew nothing about this. I got onto the internet a lot later than everybody else, and Tyler knew of all these websites. And when he linked this and showed this to me, I was like, God, this is fantastic. So he knew about it way before I did, and I'll hit it with Tyler, and he can go to you with some questions and comments.
Yeah,
Sure.
this was it transcended like anything that, you know, just seeing like a basic kind of fanfic or something like that, because I was like, oh my God, like the artwork was beautiful, the story was very mature, and it was like, oh my God, he loves the live action movie as much as I do. There's nothing but references to the live action movie all throughout this thing, and he's got KO in here. I'm like, holy shit, man, he's got KO in here. It was so nice because, you know, this is like the early days of, you know, the forums and stuff like that, and just to see a lot of love to every aspect of He-Man that had come out up to that point was just so well represented in that story. You know, from stuff in the toy line like the Three Towers, and you've got all the factions represented. Gweldor, you got the Cosmic Key. It was just so many Filmation references. It was just like you managed to nail something that's what I had always wanted to see. Is that you brought in all the important things from all the different. I don't want to call it canon because to me it's all one big canon. It's just told slightly differently. But it was such a wonderful love letter, and I know it was a project for you, but was it something that you had been thinking about all along, and just like this is the opportunity to do it, or what motivated you to like this? This is the time to do this.
Okay, I'll tell you the full story. I wanted to say also a couple of things before giving you how it happened. I wanted to thank you guys for having me today to talk about this, because when I approached Joe about coming in the show and talking about it was because I saw the previous episodes and I heard everything you said, Tyler, and what struck me was that you guys really understood my intention with this and what I was going and what I wanted to do, and so it was so cool. And of course you had a lot of questions. You were wondering why I did that, what I was thinking, how that started, and so I said, okay, that will be a perfect time to come in the show and answer these questions, because it's still something I remember pretty well. So, the first thing I usually want to tell everybody before that people that haven't seen it is it's very old. It's more than 20 years old now, because I did it at the comic school I was attending in 1998. So how it works at the comic school here, it's 3 years class, and the last year every student is tasked with creating an entire comic book, writing it, drawing it. Now they also color it and go to like a local printer and have it printed on an actual book with an hardcover if they can afford it. So they try to give the students the whole experience of self-producing a comic. And that time was a bit rougher. In 98, it was just, coming up with the story and drawing it. I didn't have the time to even color it. Also because at that time there was almost no digital coloring. And because I was a He-Man fan. I had always been a He-Man fan. I said, well, that's the perfect opportunity of writing something about Masters of the Universe the way I wanted. It was something I felt confident into. Like, this is a subject I know very well. There is stuff I want to say because I've been thinking all this time. So let's do this as my project for school. And I gotta say, I got a lot to laugh about because of that. A lot of people they were looking at this and saying, why are you doing this? Why He-Man? I mean, it wasn't popular anymore. We're talking about.
I can relate. I was scared shitless to even acknowledge. Like when I was at school looking at your image, if I had downtime, I'd make sure no one could see me. Like I'd have to minimize the screen because it was like back then wearing anything that had 80s cartoons. I was afraid of being made fun of for it. And sure enough, it's like as He-Man was coming back into popularity, people were wearing more of this stuff. You could find it more available in stores and stuff. But I was scared shitless to admit that I was still watching He-Man in high school when I saw Homecoming. Like I was afraid to tell Nathan. I thought Nathan was going to give me so much shit. And sure enough, when he saw it, to this day, I mean, he is a collector because of seeing my He-Man collection. So I'm right there with you on that, dude.
And it's still a comic school a comic book school is still a pretty nerdy place anyway.
That's what shocks me. Not to interrupt, but that shocks me that they would try to laugh or put down. I was like, it's a comic school. Jesus, everything's comic books. How could they even mock you? I mean, were they doing stuff like those based off of Marvel and DC, trying to create their own? I couldn't even imagine them matching what you did. But go ahead.
No, they weren't really mocking. They were just, they were raising their eyebrows and saying, "Oh, that's
a bunch of assholes." Whether they're friends or not, to me, I don't hesitate to call anybody who mocks He-Man at any time they're an asshole.
Well, there were teachers from other classes coming in and saying this stuff, but I had my teacher. I remember getting upset about this. It was like people were kind of mocking or laughing about this project, and my teacher defended it all the time because he knew there was potential there. It said, well, this could be relaunched. There could be something here. And he also understood that it meant something for me. It was important for me. And it absolutely encouraged me in doing it. So that was good because I had something behind my back doing this. So fortunately, I mean, even if I got this initial laughter about this, it wasn't a problem. It was something like I felt bad about it all the time. I did it. It took a year. I mean, saying that 36 pages took almost a year is not a good thing. You shouldn't be doing 36 pages in a year. But it was the school project. And I was inking myself. It was my very first experience doing so many pages. And then I remember that the summer before, that was the first time I got onto the internet, and I found out about Adam Tyner's website,
yes,
James and Zadok website. And I found out the Hero was a thing because we got the Giants in Italy, but we never got Hero, so we had this weird guy on the boxes, and I was wondering, what the hell is that? Then I found the picture. Oh, it's Hero, and I was shocked when I saw that, and I was shocked when I also realized that the Giant were sold only in Italy because everybody else in the world would say, "Oh, these are prototypes of never produced toys," and I said, "No, I have them at home."
That's crazy.
And I look at my friend Alessio Di Marco, which is the guy that helped me creating Masters Unbound. We look at each other and say, well, maybe we can do some money here.
Do you remember the retail on those? Because I'm curious, what was the retail price on those Giants back then?
Here it was. It will be a figure. It won't make any sense to you because it was around 40,000 liras. 40,000 liras today would be €20. So yeah, they will have probably been around $20 or less.
God. And what are they now, like $2,000-$3,000 or something insane for those? God.
Yeah. And we didn't even actually sell them. We sold some and traded some for other Masters of the Universe toys, like 12 of them, 12 Megator, 6 Titus.
What about the accessory packs too, like the scuba attack and the tower tools? Were those pretty accessible for you as well? Like
yeah. All the last wave was very easy to find. It was broadly distributed, now I'm finding out also that being later allowed Mattel to correct a lot of mistakes because, that Eternia's monorail is super brittle.
Yes.
Not the Italian version. Because the European distribution of Eternia was from the Italian factory, and that plastic was much better. Same for the power gears. I had experienced that the US power gears now they just explode. You cannot touch them. If you find one, don't try to put them on a figure because it will explode. It's like glass. And
I had no clue.
I had like a bad experience about.
Oh, you had it blow up on you?
Yeah, this was like $500. Let's put it on a figure to photograph, and
wow,
it started breaking. And
shit.
Yeah. So don't just leave them in the box or just display them very carefully, but not on a figure. It's just they will destroy themselves. Wow. But the Italian version and the Spanish version are made of a much better plastic, so they don't fall apart that easily.
Yeah, the monorails. I knew nothing about those until I years ago was putting my Eternia playset back up just for display purposes, and it cracked, and my heart sunk. I was like, "Oh my God!" And I went online. Everybody said, "Oh, it happens with almost everything." And then, thank goodness, at least on eBay, there was somebody doing some repro tracks that are really perfect and beautiful, and now it's back to normal.
You know how I bypassed that problem? I never. My monorail is still together since I was a child.
No kidding.
It is not Eternia has been put back in the boxes, but the monorail is still hanging on a wall flat. So I never tried to pull it apart.
That's crazy. What made you do that, anyways? Isn't that bizarre? You did it. It's a good thing you did. But what made you?
Well, it was like I had the feeling like it was dangerous to pull it apart.
Good instinct, I guess, huh? All right, well, we'll flip you back to your homecoming, which, by the way, did you at least get an A for this? I hope. I couldn't imagine getting anything less than an A for this project. If you got something less, your teacher would piss me off.
No, I don't think I got like the perfect grades at the final exam. I mean, I get a good score, but the final exams wasn't that great, I think. So it was okay, but
we give you an A though.
Oh my God, we give him an A+++ extra credit, no curve.
Put a sticker.
He should be teaching the class. That's the kind of grade he's like. It's just unbelievable.
Well, sometime it happens for me to teach the classes over here in Palermo. But all these long premises was because this is old, so it was my first project of this size. So people that will see it for the first time, it's not that great. Like the art is.
Whatever, dude. I get your mentality. But I am such a picky person when it comes to He-Man art. Like, I will not be nice to people who have, like, shitty artwork. I mean, I just won't say anything, but I'm like, I will not settle for anything less than, like, top-tier He-Man artwork because of the box art, the mini-comics, and seeing that homecoming artwork. I mean, because when I told Joe about it, it's just like, 4 or 5 years ago, Joe? It was just, and I have vivid memories of it. I haven't, I didn't revisit it till we actually reviewed it, but I had so many images from that comic burned into my brain of how you drew He-Man certain ways, how you drew King Hiss with his kind of king outfit. You had a few additions to him, Skeletor's outfit, the shots of King Randor leading the heroic warriors, how you drew Leech standing in front of the massive cosmic key. There were so many things that I just never forgot, and it's still beautiful to this day. Like Nathan visiting it, it was just like, it's not something. It ages like fine wine, and I don't even drink wine, but it's just it's like, oh my God, it's unbelievably. And that's the thing too, is that it was your take on the vintage looks. You know, it wasn't like the MYP look, which was a phenomenon when you did that, but your take on the vintage styles, that's what made it so damn good. It was your version of the 80s stuff in a very mature, edgy way. I'm like, son of a bitch. I mean, it was just like, I cannot tell you how many times I went back to read that when I was in high school, so much that I printed off the pages and put them on my box of He-Man comics so I could have like pictures of it to look at in my spare time.
I think, that was one of the reasons that clicked with so many people, because it was the first thing like a good side story accessible to a lot of people that had nothing for years. So people found this and they started talking about, because I remember I was in the old mailing list when we launched this, and everybody was talking about it, and it was the first new things they got in a long time. So I think it worked very well also because of that reason.
And because of everything, like all the details, like what Tyler was saying, but I mean, something as simple as background characters. Usually don't see somebody put that much love and detail into background characters. You made everybody its own recognizable person in things. I mean, just like, when they're in the tavern type, just to see the detail in the floorboards, the barrels. It's like, you look at a lot of art nowadays, and even stuff from back then, they would do some of the quickest cop out of nothing for background, either where you don't see nothing at all or just a simple little shape representing something, but you didn't half-ass anything in your comics. So I couldn't see anything being looked at as, oh, that looks like shit. No, it looks amazing.
Thank you. Well, you know what? That was like my way of drawing comics, and I carried it out in the MVC comics too. And, well, to be honest, I admire artists that are able to, to make a page look good and full without drawing everything. And that's actually the way you survive doing this job, because comics don't pay a lot unless you're very, very famous. So you barely survive on comics, and they are very stressful to do. Like when you have to do at least one page a day, well, you may work 12 hours a day at least drawing, and you do that constantly. And so, but for not for a lot of money. So a good artist finds way to not draw everything, and that helps you, moving through the pages and get the job done without dying, basically. and because I was so focused on doing all the details, that eventually burned me out. When I was done with comics, I was really burned. I said, no, I'm not good for comics because I put too many details on it, on them. And so I said, doing toys is easier in a way because I have to draw things one time. So even if I put a lot of stuff in it, I won't have to reproduce it every page.
Yeah, because I was going to say, would you find that being stressful? Meaning, like you said, you like adding all those little meticulous details. And like you said, like, let's say you're working on a new comic now and you want to keep adding, but they tell you, oh, you don't have to. Does like an OCD kick in where you're like, I really want to do that? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And during the MVC comic, because of the kind of art Mattel was aiming for, etc., Vala asked me to not use blacks, to not spot blacks as I did like in Homecoming. But that means I had to draw everything, because when you can cast shadows and use blacks, you can hide a lot of stuff. It helps telling the story because it had drama and mood. So it's something I missed when doing that. But also meant I had to draw everything. Like on a wall, I had to draw all the bricks. Well, you can find a way to not draw all the bricks, but using blacks helps not drawing all the bricks. Or you just create a texture with brush strokes. Here I wasn't well, we did inks for the first 4 issues. Then my friend Marco left, and we published just pencils, which means I had to create inks with pencils, which was another stressful thing because, you know, well, this is not a brush, but when you do a stroke with a brush, you can create a broader stroke or a very thin stroke. With the pencil, if you want a very thick stroke, you just have to draw it, you know. So you know, it was twice the time, and yeah, at the end I was totally burned out by doing that.
Now, there's a character that I remember I mentioned in this comic that when I was first wondering, Tyler was like, I wasn't sure, and you confirmed it. What made you put Star Child in just by chance? Because in the community, it seems like she's almost one of the most hated characters, but just to know that you popped her in Homecoming, did you like Star Child? Did you think that was just a fun thing to add?
And Star Child is in
yeah, she was in Homecoming, Joe. You're talking about the Faceless One comic we did.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. Oh goddamn! See, look, Joe just had a mental fart there. Okay, yeah, okay, that was never mind. All right, let me drink some water. See what happens when it's hot? I know what I'm talking about.
God, Joe, what a botch that was. Let me just take her. You just sit down and shut up.
I had my moment of botchamania. Go ahead, Tyler.
No, but I will. But to piggyback on that, like that's one of the things I loved about Homecoming and your run on the NBC comics was that even with the restrictions that you had on the comic, you still managed to put in a lot of cameos for the Horde, Hero, Star Child. That was one of the big pivotal things for me in reading that was like, oh my god, like there's like all these like bust sculpts of the Horde, you know, in this little hallway that Skeleton Ninja Warriors are destroying. And then seeing Hero in issue number 2 in that silhouette. It was like, oh my god, I couldn't believe that. When I remember the day that I got that, and I thought, oh my god, like it's Hero. Like it was like no King Rachel bullshit. It's Hero, man. This is amazing, and just and that one in particular, the Faceless One too, because that's when you threw in like the references to Central Tower. Eldor is in there, and answering that question of which I know people have. If they don't know, then they haven't done their research on the fandom. But putting in Keldor as the unnamed one in that story, I mean that was your intention, right? Because I know it's not really addressed, but it's
well, no, it wasn't supposed to be the unnamed one.
Okay, so what was that initially? Because that's what I always was kind of led to believe.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, the thing was we had those restrictions on us by the time we got on volume 3, where they basically told us you cannot do anything at all. And how do we tell a story if we cannot do anything at all? And maybe we can use 12 characters and we cannot go anywhere. So that we just did it because we couldn't do anything. So, okay, let's illustrate stuff that we cannot mention. And I mean, there was a backstory, and when I published the Bible for the comic, some of the stuff got explained. But well, what I wanted to go was that the unnamed one was our prime, or part of our prime, because I wanted to connect everything. So part of our prime was banned and in ancient Preternia, and he became our prime. He created the Horde outside Eternia, and what he wanted to do was going back to Eternia. That was the plan. That was the idea.
So is Keldor connected to that? You know, like
Keldor, yes, because you know, in my idea, what I always imagined Power of Grayskull was about Keldor going back in time and serving the unnamed one, as King Is suggests in the minicomic. You know, when he says, "Oh, maybe he's like
an emissary from the unnamed one that we serve."
Yes. Yeah. So I always imagined that the Power of Grayskull was the story of Keldor going back in time and becoming Skeletor while serving. But Well, turned out that probably wasn't the case because everything else I've seen about Power of Grayskull has nothing to do with Keldor. So I mean, they were making stuff as they went back then. So maybe eventually Team Killpin, which was responsible for this stuff, would have taken this story of Keldor somewhere because they were planning something when they introduced the Three Towers and King Geese, etc. You could tell between the mini comics that all this stuff was connected. So I think maybe some of the writer, maybe Team Killpin had an idea where to go with that. But as far as toy design I've seen for Power of Grayskull, there was nothing for Keldor. So, but yeah, if Super 7 had continued Power of Grayskull like we were planning to do, definitely I would have put Keldor in it. And it would have been a human Keldor, not blue-skinned Keldor.
No, okay, all right. Because yes, which I've always frowned upon the idea of Keldor anyway. But I guess that I'm open to interpretation, in which I would trust you with it because I liked what you had planned for that. Did you learn anything else? Because you guys have kind of been Raiders of the Lost Ark and kind of uncovering so much stuff. What is there anything that you uncovered about the Powers of Grayskull 3-parter that most people don't know?
No, not the story. Basically, I think the only outline was discovered by Scott at Mattel, but there was nothing about what was going to happen. It was really a very rough outline of the first issue and where they mentioned hero, etc. But there was nothing more. So I didn't find anything else about the story. What we recently found, thanks to Brian Flynn from Super 7, was some designs that for other characters. Not many, to be honest. Just a couple more. There is one that got me excited because, seeing it among this character, I said, oh, wait, that may be the unnamed one. But I'm not sure because of the dates. So all this material we got was Power of Grayskull. But this character was like the very first one drawn, judging by the dates that they are signed and dated. And a hero, Gray, which had a lot of names before, Gray Herrick, David, Grayskull, Lord Grayskull. He changed names a lot of times. He was drawn after that. So I wondered, who knows, maybe they were going to use that guy as the unnamed one because it was already designed. I'm not sure. One thing I can say, though, is that people have already seen some of this character without knowing that they are Power of Grayskull characters. And I'm not talking about those carbacks by Errol, where you had those mashups figures from the guys that were actually released as PowerCon exclusive. Not those. There are characters in the Foundation catalog that are Power of Grayskull characters.
And the initial book that was released?
Yeah, the one that we did in 2011.
Oh my God, where's that book? I got that book around here somewhere. All right, here it is.
Hey.
All right. Is there any? I got it right here. Is there?
Yeah.
Who do I need to look for here?
Well,
if this is supposed to keep secret, I won't say anything.
Well,
but
I will give you one because it's fun. Because it's also the most unexpected one. Because you think about Power of Grayskull and you think, okay, it's gonna be really sword and sorcery and monsters and creatures. No, the most technological guy that you can find in the book is a Power of Grayskull character. And I don't. I'll tell you which pages.
Okay. This is groundbreaking news here, people. You're getting it live here. Holy shit balls, man!
This is the one time I don't have my book by me now. Huh?
What a
everything
loser!
By me at all times. I know. God, I have everything right by me at all times. This is the one time I don't have my.
Okay, yeah, it's on page 57.
57. Streak?
Yep. Streak is a Power of Grayskull character.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at
Is like a just a heroic character or a very prominent, just a heroic character.
Well, I'm not sure. I think it became heroic because I've seen so many iterations of this guy. He had a bird head at one point, a lot of names. But if you notice, it has this crest on his belt.
Yes, I see it. It's got the Grayskull. It's got Grayskull on there, or a version of it,
which is the same crest that can be found on Eldor's sketches. Basically, all those guys had this crest. So I was surprised too. I said, "Oh, holy crap! This is the Power of Grace." So,
oh my God! I've looked at this book so many times, and I never would have thought.
Me neither, of course. So,
and that's what I was going to ask you to see if you knew anything about, because I know the early concept drawings of Hero has that G on his chest and that G on his staff, and then Titus has that G. So I was wondering if there was any connection. Oh, okay.
It was because it was Grayskull. It had a regular name as his secret identity, but until the very last minute, it was Grayskull, just Grayskull or Lord Grayskull. Right. Even in the script for the mini comic is called Grayskull, not Hero, and they changed them. And I know we're going in a lot of different tangents. We'll go back to Homecoming, but when we were working with Super 7 on the Hero figure, I noticed I had studied that single photo we have for hours during the years, and when we had to provide directions for the Four Horsemen to resculpt him, I spent more hours looking at every pixel. I scanned it, blow it up, looking at every pixel to understand better how certain shape work. And I noticed that the H on his chest was a sticker. It wasn't sculpted. So what I'm wondering still is maybe the original sculpt had the G and they had to cover it with a sticker. It would be awesome to find the test shot and find out if it had the G.
Was there someone that has that test shot? I mean, no, there's a couple Eldor test shot. No, nothing on Hero.
No. I mean, there was a point where everybody believed there was a test shot, and it was not a test shot. It was a custom figure that went around 2002 or 5, and people didn't know where it came from, but it was clearly a test shot, a custom figure. I mean, I traced it.
It would make sense too, because I mean, when you're talking about that emblem on his chest, isn't that almost the same shape as how that G looked on that? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See, so I'm confident that there was a G under the sticker, and they had to change it last minute. And now that I'm thinking of it, would have been cool if I suggested the Four Horsemen to actually sculpt the G
in removable.
And put the sticker on, so there was this hidden feature in it. That would have been very.
That could have been a cool little plug-in. It could have popped in right there and popped out. Show that that's pretty. And didn't you? Now I keep thinking it was either Wizard Magazine or Toy Fair, but I thought you drew an image of Hero that was okay. And was that something that was maybe going to pop up in the comics of what you want to do, but you guys couldn't do, or?
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't drawn any story with him, but it was that point where things started to be weird with Mattel. And so we did this interview with these images just to show where we wanted to go, but that actually pissed off a lot of people at Mattel, and they couldn't, unprint the Wizard magazine that was printed, but they were mad at us for that picture. So I couldn't post it or talk about it for a long time.
Okay, yeah, I always had that, and I would talk to people about it, and some people didn't even know what I was talking about. I still think I have that magazine somewhere, but I can never find it. I keep telling Tyler, hey, I'm going to show you, and I just can't find it, but I know I have this, and I don't even know. Has that really popped up any line or online anywhere for somebody to
No,
see?
no, I don't think I ever reposted that one. I might eventually. Yeah, I mean there is no issue anymore right now, but yeah, I think I'll repost it sometime.
Now with Homecoming, I know, like, again, I know you're really busy with what you do, but is there ever, you think, a possibility that if you talk with Mattel or whether it's some kind of like free funded thing, is this something that could maybe one day you think be published? I think this would be an amazing story for everybody to see published, printed out for Homecoming. Would you like to pursue that if it could be possibly done and colored?
Well, if they ask me, I will definitely say yes. I understand that it will create a weird precedent legally that they take something done by a fan and incorporate as an official piece. Now I understand some of the legalities involved with that, and you will start seeing a lot of people trying to do the same, and that will create headache for Mattel and their lawyers. So I don't think that will ever happen, but if they will ask me, yeah, I will definitely say yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, it'd be cool because, you've actually worked for them. And what if they asked you to, like in the future, work on a future project? And I just think it'd be great because, I mean, I'll tell you what, this crap here that we're getting with the Origins figures, this horrible mini comic, I mean, it just sucks. I mean, give me your cards any fucking day of the week. This is amazing. I'll take these over that crappy mini comic. And that's why it's like, God, I'd want something like this, which you've done in the past, but it just sucks. I mean, like I said, these are beautiful cards, by the way. I mean, if nobody has those figures, damn, these are amazing. But it's just, it's a disappointment. That thing that came with Origins, like, God, 6 pages of lazy, just garbage. But I'm not here to, put people down or nothing. I don't want you being a participant.
That's my part. Just, let me handle that, Joe. You be Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't get Axel drawing that. I guess the budget for this was very, very low because it's not even outsourced. The artist on the book, because I recognize him, is Ruben Martinez, which is a designer, a toy designer inside Mattel, which worked with the Four Horsemen on the 2002 line and is now working on Origins. Is actually the designer in charge of Origins. So if he had to do it, there was very little money to be spent on something like that.
Just a terrible story. Just a terrible story too. God, I can't.
Well, I read it. It's not really a story. It's just an advertisement. But yeah, I understand that they couldn't do more than that because they're paying Axel to illustrate mini comics for the wrestling figures. So probably wrestling figures have a bigger budget. Maybe if this stuff sells well, maybe they'll be able to do more on the next wave or the next figures they will announce. Hopefully,
it'd be nice increasing the story wise in the pages and making something a little better. I mean, you think of, like I said, the stuff we grew up reading, which was fantastic, and then you get this, and I just feel bad for kids. I always say that's like I said a couple episodes ago that it's like. They're not challenging the minds of these kids. They're just giving them these quick little nothing pages to read. It's like they can't use their imagination like we did with all the stories we were reading that sucked us in.
Well, the weirdest thing I found about this mini comic is that is just one. So again, I understand the limitations and the budget, etc. But
even with Tila, is that going to be coming with Tila and Evelyn and all of them? The same comic? Or?
Yeah, I think it's the entire wave. Wow. It's just one comic.
Oh, that's terrible. Wow.
Well, it's just that it has no purpose. Well, you had the old mini comics. You kind of find a different one in every figure. Not exactly, but there were many. So you had to collect the figure to collect the comics, and you had different information about the character in each comic. So there was a marketing purpose in those mini comics, and this one being the same everywhere is not adding much. It's not adding value to the figure. It doesn't give children more information. So I'm just confused about the purpose of
Yeah,
this.
I don't get that. Why they would put it in with every single figure from that wave. I mean, then what's the point? What's the sense of them even drawing up a comic? I mean, literally, like how you did the art cards that were a facade for at least a mini comic. It was different for every figure. It's like, well, do something like that. If they don't want to put the effort into actually giving us a good story, it's like, what's the sense of even making the mini comic then? I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either.
All right. Well, I don't want to delve into that and make anything negative. So I'll pass it to Tyler if he wanted to ask you anything more about Homecoming before we get into some of like the best artists that you liked back in the day. But I'll pass it to you, Tyler.
Yeah, I don't want to devote any more time to that bullshit line anyway. So anyway, what I love about Emiliano's work is that he always managed to incorporate a vast array of like the later characters. Like in Homecoming, you've got Clamp Champ featured there, which is a personal favorite. It has been for years, and that you worked in KO. You don't mention him, but it was just so cool that like of all the New Adventures characters that you put KO in, and that is KO, right? I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's him. It's Tartarus for us in Europe.
Yes.
But yeah, it's him. Which
I love the facial hair addition you gave to him too. Like time had passed, and
yeah,
and
that was
and it was just so many nice touches. Like He-Man comes back and all disheveled, the beard and mustache, everything as well. But in that one group shot of the Snake Man with King S sitting on the Skeletor's formation throne, you got Squeeze. It's just you just remember all these details that you just pulled from so much of the mythology. And do you genuinely appreciate the live action movie, New Adventures? Whether or not New Adventures was executed to the full extent or the full potential it had or not, but it was like you appreciated that part of almost like tying it all together, because that's why I feel like if people don't like New Adventures, look at this, look at Homecoming, and see how well like this ties all the elements that people like to make fun of or don't quite buy into. If it's incorporated in a very competent way, like how do you not appreciate that? Like like knowing that He-Man and Skeletor left, you got She-Ra in one of those shots too, of like that She-Ra was still here during all this. Like there's so much potential in the story that you told them. Like even things that are not really addressed, like those are stories in their in their own of just seeing certain panels and certain shots in your Homecoming. Like I want to know more about that. Yeah. Like you genuinely just appreciate so much of He-Man. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah,
such a long-winded answer or question. God, I'm sorry, dude.
No problem at all. It was my way of paying respect to everything that happened. I mean, of course, I had my preferences. When I first saw the movie, I was kind of disappointed too. I started to like the movie later on. New Adventure, I hated the toys when they came out because they were taking He-Man away from me. Like they were like I opened the catalog and there was no more Masters of the Universe, so it was like big for me when I was a kid. No more Masters of the Universe. This is my life until then. So, but this stuff existed, and I say, well, I don't want to judge. So I say, okay, let's put everything together. Of course, and this, I mean, we'll talk about this. This will be the most controversial take on New Adventure, etc. Probably, but I wanted to pay respect to everything that existed and knowledge that existed, and it was there. And of course, there was also the fun of using character that never had the chance to appear anywhere. So using Squeeze or Netossa and Clam Champ, other than the mini comics, we never got to see them anywhere else. So it was fun to draw this guy that we got the toys but they were never used. Excuse me. So that was, I started using all this extra stuff in it, and then of course I wanted to give a reason for everything. It was not like if I had to bring back certain elements or to tie them together, I wanted to have a reason for that. Now, I don't know, yes, I thought about this. I don't know how much I thought about this. It wasn't like a super long plan. I didn't spend years. It was ideas I had in mind, and then they just came together when I wrote this. I think I wrote it in a month before going back to the school for the final year. And yeah, there were a lot of things like, where is She-Ra? What happened to He-Man in the future? What happened to Skeletor? And I know, like you talk a lot about how you like it, the way Skeletor is here, which is very ambiguous in his behavior, and also even Teela, what Teela does and why. Yeah, it was maybe a darker and more mature approach to these stories, but even there, this was not a story for children. It was a story for people that had grown up with these guys. So all of us were able to accept and read a story that was a bit more mature. It was kind of natural to do this way, but probably that was what I was thinking about it.
It's shocking though that you used. Oh, go ahead, Tyler. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just. Did you have a plan or an idea in your head of what Skeletor's role, like why he was the way he was? Because it was like that was something I had to ask you, like what your plan was for Skeletor, or why he, like there has got to be something you had in mind that you were going to build up to. Maybe in the
I actually don't know what would have happened after this. At least for Skeletor, I wasn't sure, but yeah, I know exactly why it was this way, and this is the part I was telling you about that is probably going to sound very controversial. Okay. Now, I guess most of the fans listening know the story of the New Adventures. We have Denebria with the evil mutants and Primus with the good humans. Now, I was really big into the X-Men back then, and X-Men. I mean, we were on pair with US with the comic back then. So we got during the 90s we got a lot of X-Men from the 80s. So John Byrne and Chris Claremont ran the
classic stuff.
Yeah, classic stuff. And what I was reading that comics for years, and it was about the mutants and racism, and how people treated the mutants because they were different, etc. And yeah, it was. I think it's still in retrospect, but I had this thing. Okay, evil mutants on Denebria and good humans on Primus. What if at one point He-Man found out that Primus, government of Primus and people on Primus were those keeping Denebria from being free, and they were exploiting Denebria resources and workers, and just it was like a big concentration camp for mutants. So there were, because we don't, especially in the cartoon, we don't see the mutants all being evil. It's just another planet. So why these two planets are at war with each other? And so what if He-Man find out is on the wrong side? Not right away, but at one point. And he realized, oh wait, these are the bad guys. And at the same time, everything goes exactly how we know with Skeletor and Flog and the evil mutants, etc. But what if Skeletor find out that Flog is not entirely bad, and Flog is like Yasser Arafat was alive at that time, still, the guy.
Yes, I know you're talking about
Palestine. Yeah. And, what if Flog is kind of an Arafat type guy? So it's like he's moving a war. He's moving is using violence too, but is for the good of his people. And Skeletor all of a sudden found himself involved in a good cause, and that that kind of messes with him because it was all about the power that he had to get, but now he has a good cause that is involved with. Now, of course, he could have gone another way. He could have just used to his advantage, but I imagine that struck something into him, and basically they were on the opposite side. He-Man was with the bad guys, and Skeletor was with the good guys. And of course, He-Man couldn't be with the bad guys. So something happened where He-Man had to fight Flipshot and Hydron, which were the military guys from Primus, and maybe Kaio was the rebel that helped He-Man, and they left Primus and helped the Nebria, and they helped the mutants, and they all went back in time, and that was what broke He-Man in Homecoming. That's why it is so broken, because he was confused, and he believed he did the wrong thing when he fought for Primus. So that's the entire thing about Homecoming.
Joe, hang on. This is fucking brilliant, man. This is I'm like
Oh, he brought a hell of a background to something you never expect. Something like that.
Oh my god! Like if my brain could pop out of my skull right now, it would have done it, because that is just. So that would have meant, and your take is like Master Cyprian and the council and all of them like all aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and they were hiding it from him, just so they could use him.
So essentially, like Flaw, Karate, Hoove, they're kind of like a rebellion almost. Like they're rebelling against.
I could say they're terrorists.
But they're fighting for a cause, but just in a very extreme way.
Exactly. Like in the real world, I mean, we have terrorists that fight for good cause, but we had terrorists that fought for bad cause. And of course, we're not saying that they did the right thing, but of course, like freedom of Palestinian, etc., those can be good cause. It's just that they are acted by an extreme fringe. So the evil mutants, led by Flog, were this extreme fringe, fighting for the freedom of the citizens of the Nebria. So I mean, it was a lot more of a gray area, not so black and white like it was before.
God. Absolutely. How do you not illustrate that, or like, have you? I mean, because I don't know. Maybe you shared this at some point on a forum somewhere. But have you ever like shared this like to a lot of people, or is this pretty much you just kind of kept to yourself? Maybe a small circle of people are aware of this.
Yeah. I mean, with my friends, we talked a lot about it. I don't know. Honestly, not organically like this. I probably mentioned something in talking on the forums with fans, but I never explain everything about it. Probably because nobody ever asked it.
This is insane. Like I don't know how all these years and no one bothered to ask. I should have just got the balls and just said, "Dude, you got to explain some of this, man." But I just felt like I don't know. It's like, who am I to ask? You didn't know who I was or anything like that. But wow. I mean, and no desire to finish the story. Like when the horde come through, and like it's such an epic cliffhanger. And now you explain all this. Like you got entirely too many stories to tell, dude. You got to get on the ball. Tell Hasbro they got to wait. Do we got to do like a Kickstarter? Just do like a fanzine or something to get you to illustrate these stories? Joe, am I wrong in this, or am I nuts?
No, like I said, I like the twist of it. I felt like it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie or something. We found out something, boom, different at the end. I mean, that's a hell of a twist. I love it. And again, it's something that when I think I asked Tyler that too. I was like, did Emiliano do anything past this? And he said no, because I was like, oh my God, I'd love to know what happened past this. But now to hear all this backstory, I mean, again, like you said, you're a busy man, but I would love to see this actually come to fruition. Now, here's another thing. This is stuff where I guess I don't understand all the legal stuff, and I know you know a lot more than I do about it. Now, if you could do a fan project,
Yeah.
And let's say it wasn't to where, I don't know, I guess you didn't make money, but it covered the cost of your inks or colorings or work on it, and it was just something to be delivered. Is that something that can happen, or is just no, they can't allow any type of fan projects, even if it's not profitable? Is that something that Mattel would not allow? Because I'd love to hear, I'd love to see everything you just said come into comic form, but you'd have to explain, because I know it's tricky. I know there's a lot of weird things and ins and outs.
Well, it got weirder in the past few years, because of the whole Star Trek stuff that happened with Paramount, where they stopped production of many fan movies. But people were raising money for those movies and trying to sell them. So, there was an actual copyright infringement.
Okay.
A few images posted online technically is an infringement of copyright, but nobody really gets hurt. Nobody is making money. So usually that piss off companies when you do something that makes a brand look really bad. And it happened in the past where now I can't remember the example for that, but there was, it was with Turtles, I think, that Eastman and Laird went after something that made the Turtles look really bad. I think, I may remember wrong, but I think that what it is on the Toys That Made Us. They talk about this too. So, when you really make, you make a character do something that is really the opposite of what the character is, something too violent or sexually oriented in a weird way, it's really not what the image of the company wants of that brand. They may go after that, but usually other than that, they don't really care too much, because it's just an image posted. The moment you start selling something, that's a problem, because you use the character appearance, the brand name, the character's name, and of course that's full copyright infringement. You cannot do that. There is a weird precedent too that happened last year, I think, when James was doing his fan cartoon and Universal asked him to not show it, which is controversial because it's not selling, it's not making money out of it. It's like fan art. That's really
why I guess I was
fan.
bringing it up, because that was going to be my example. This is nothing that James or anybody that was involved is profiting off of. It was just a labor of love from fans, and it's a love letter to fans, and that's all it was going to be, and it was for free for everybody to see. So I guess that's why it blew my mind, because I kept bringing him examples of, like, Friday the 13th is going through issues with Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham with, who owns the right to Friday the 13th. But in the meantime, there are multiple fan projects through Kickstarter and stuff where, again, it's just covering the cost to make the movie, but they're not profiting. I was like, how can they do it? But something like with James, what he did, it was a problem. And I guess that's why I questioned, would you even be able to do a comic? Even if there was no profit, could it be done?
Yeah. Probably. I mean, the like Grayskull Con did these mini comics that they just gave away to the visitors. So, I mean, until you stay under the radar, you're fine with this thing. Now, will be wise for me to work on something like that? Probably not, because of the position I'm in. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, I work for multiple companies. These companies needs to know that I'm reliable and I don't do this kind of stuff. And I also work on Masters of the Universe brand from time to time. So again, it's probably wouldn't be wise for me to work on unofficial stuff. There are certain gray areas, like for comic book artists. I do prints at the conventions, and everybody does that. It's one thing that is kind of accepted by everybody. Sometimes they try, like DC and Marvel, try to regulate this stuff. Sometimes not. It depends. But if I do a comic and try to distribute printed copies, that may raise some question. If I just do it and post it online, I honestly doubt that anybody would have anything to say. Unless, you find a jealous person that wants to have his vision. That happened in the past. But other than that, it's fine. Now, there is the question if I would do it, because you're right. Maybe I can raise the money to cover for the time I spent doing this. The issue, and I'm sorry, I have to go on this very technical part of my job, but the thing is, let's say a comic, I will take a month or 2 months to do it, and in that couple of months I have to pass on a lot of other things for Hasbro, for example. Like Hasbro, usually how Hasbro works is that they give me a project every couple of days. It's very fast and it changes a lot. So I have all this small thing and I have to do them very fast, and the turnaround is fast too. But then I have to make myself unavailable for a long time. And, to tell this big story, I will need multiple issues. So it wouldn't be good for me to not be available for the other work. You have to stay available and to fulfill all the duties that they give you, and they trust you because you're available. Also, especially
reliable,
yeah, especially me, because I'm kind of the emergency guy when they have something like, oh, can you do this for tomorrow? And I say yes. They count on me for this kind of stuff. So it will be cool, but I don't see myself doing this for a very long time. Now, if I could just write it and have somebody else illustrating it, yeah, maybe it's something I could imagine doing. I'm not really a writer. I mean, I wrote my own stuff, but I haven't wrote a story in a long time. I don't even know if I'm a good writer. Maybe I can plot something.
Well, you're a great writer, especially with Homecoming. It was a fantastic
I
story.
think I would argue that in the court of law right now after what you just shared. I mean, God almighty, dude.
For a sequel, yeah.
I may have good ideas, but writing dialogues
well, you wrote the dialogue in Homecoming, did you not?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. It's good dialogue. I'm not bullshitting you because you're sitting here it was legitimately good. That was it was everything I want. I hate crummy dialogue. That's what ruins any good cartoon or movie or comic book. I need to have beautiful artwork that takes the characters seriously. And you nailed everything, and then threw in characters like Clamp Champ and Squeeze and the Cosmic Key, Gwildor's in one shot. I mean, you threw in everything. So you're too damn humble, dude.
Well, now, thank you. But think also that this was actually written in Italian first, because I wasn't able to speak English as good. It was written in Italian, and I had a native speaker teacher here in Palermo translated for me. So I didn't actually wrote the dialogue in English.
But it still translate. That's
yeah.
Okay, well, that's good enough for me. That's more than fine, dude.
Yeah,
you can write the whole thing in Italian if you want to. We'll translate it down the road.
Probably. Well, now I guess I'm a bit better. I will still need somebody helping me with good dialogues. But I haven't done it in almost. Well, the last time I wrote a story was for the Orko story, the issue 8, volume 3 of MV Creation comic. That was the last story I wrote. That was fun. That one was something I really enjoyed because I got to write a story for Orko. But that was the last time I wrote something. So I just don't know if I'm still good doing it. It will be fun. It will probably wouldn't be exactly what I wanted to do more than 20 years ago. Some of the ideas I had, I used them in the MV Creation story that we never told anyway. So it still remained untold. But some of these concepts were incorporated into what we wanted to do. Of course, I had to merge them with what was established in the cartoon. But what something I found very interesting about this is another weird tangent, but I noticed that one thing that I found it was a good idea eventually was used again, And to this day, I'm wondering if Noel Stevenson read something I wrote. Probably not. Probably it's just a coincidence. But one of the ideas that was in volume 3 was kind of explained in volume 3 was that in Mike Young production cartoon there was the Spondus, and the Spondus this was this dimension Ordak was banished to. And what we wanted to do in the comic was to again change that and reveal that Eternia is in the Spondus. And the rest of the universe and the Horde are outside, and they're trying to get in the Spondus and conquer Eternia. And if you watch the new She-Ra cartoon, they kind of did the same. They believe Eteria was out in the universe, and Horde Prime was trying to find a way into Eteria, but it turned out that Mara put, I think it was the Spondus too, in the new She-Ra cartoon. Mara put Etheria in the Spondus to hide it from Horde Prime, which is exactly what I wanted to do in the MV Creation comic. That was fun. When I watched it, I was, wait, this is exactly the same thing.
Oh my God.
That was
I wasn't. I couldn't make any comment. I don't want to. I don't want to comment.
Yeah, because we promised ourselves we were not going to slam the new She-Ra cartoon. Otherwise, we're going to have to do a commentary for the Island episode in MYP. So we promised everyone we're not going to, attack that.
And it's the only time I get real angry. So I just was trying to stay silent. But no. But hopefully, you never know. Maybe there'll be something in the future with, like you said, with your comics. Some years coming forward. Hopefully. But I was going to say.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, and I put that link there so any of the fans can click it here on the video description. You can check out his comic and check out Homecoming because it is fantastic. And before we get to the question parts where we do Q&A with the fans, we'll just do a little bit of discussion of maybe some of the artists from the past, maybe some people that either are your favorites or influence, because that's what I always love asking, and I'm curious. It's like, was it Masters of the Universe and the art of all the stuff you've seen that kind of influenced you to become an artist? Was it just a combination of a lot of the things in the 80s? But beyond that, I'd love to know some of your favorite Masters of the Universe artists.
I mean, I've been drawing since I was a little kid, so I cannot say there was something specific that made me decide I wanted to be an artist. Actually, I wasn't even until the end of high school. I was. Well, no, before high school, second grade, I was saying, no, I'm not going to be an artist. That's too complicated. Like I kept drawing, but I wasn't sure that was a real career to pursue. So I changed my mind. Eventually, I said, oh yeah, that's nothing else I can do actually. So I have to do it. But I know I could relate a lot with the art. I would say, like. The art impressed me a lot. So with Masters of the Universe, of course, the fact that the art was so important in the marketing for Masters, as I learned later, that was definitely something that stayed with me all this time. Alcala and Rudy and Bill George. It was. They were so important, and of course, they were what brought this stuff alive. That what make these characters alive. So there was the storytelling part, even in single illustration like the box art. There was a storytelling into the box art, the storytelling part into the box art, because you see this character animated, moving, going to each other, going against each other, fighting. Having facial expression. So the art is what gives lives to the characters, other than the kids playing with it, and it gives a clue to the kids about who the characters are, and so they definitely influenced me. They didn't make me pursue a career per se, like do specific things, but definitely were a huge influence. And I know, because now, like, the main piece in my collection is this Alfredo Alcala page I have. getting to know these guys was like, as a He-Man fan, there was nothing that can top meeting Ted Mayer, Bill George, and Mark, of course. Nothing more than that. Like, yeah, I can buy all the toy I want, but meeting the artists that created them, that's the best part. There's nothing like that. So, and of course, it's because I'm an artist too. So we relate with each other. Definitely. I mean, I know I could talk to Mark and Ted about art, and we understood each other. So that was cool. And of course, yeah. I mean, there's the box art and the mini comic were the main thing for me. But also the Filmation cartoon. I learned to appreciate the Filmation cartoon because it was different for us in Italy. It was the only cartoon from US that was still naturalistic in representing human forms. And Filmation was probably the only studio that was still doing that. Because, Hanna-Barbera, like they did Space Ghost, etc., but they kind of left those behind. And it was more like the classic stylized cartoons, Scooby-Doo, etc. And on the other hand, in Italy, we got a lot of anime, like a lot, hundreds of series from Japan that you guys never got in US. So, and anime already from the 70s were a lot more serious than animation from US, like in themes and moods, and how the violence was represented in these cartoons was completely different from US cartoons. Like, I mean, we had these giant robots killing people all the time, or Devilman, where you had demons killing guys left and right. It was very different. But the Filmation studio was still doing a naturalistic style of art with Flash Gordon and Black Star and He-Man. So, that was something I could relate, because Masters of the Universe, I couldn't say it was very modern when in the representation of the characters, because you had Alfredo Alcala, which was a guy that worked a lot in the 60s and 70s, and definitely he had a way of drawing that is not modern for the 80s too. It had this ancient feeling. He used to draw to help drawing Conan. He inked John Buscema. So with He-Man, it was already making us look at the stuff like we were looking at something ancient, old, and that was part of what was fascinating about this mini comic, I think, for all of us. And same Rudy. Rudy was hired specifically because he could illustrate like Frazetta back then. And that was why Mark hired him. We need something like Frazetta, because he wanted that style. And that was the style of Conan and, all these fantasy covers. And even the sculpt on the figure. Tony Guerrero, the original sculptor, must have had a very classical education in sculpting. Because, like, if you take even the Four Horsemen with the 2002 style of sculpting, there is a lot of Eastern influence, modern way of sculpting, or even McFarlane toys, etc. Maybe there are stuff that is more realistic, but Tony sculpted like Renaissance statues, basically. Like, it was surprising. I'd never noticed it until somebody took off the painting from He-Man eyes. And the pupil in He-Man eyes is a hole. Who does that now? like you go and see an ancient Greek statue, and the eyes are sculpted, and the pupil is a hole, and nobody does that. So I said, okay, this guy really had this classical education. He knew how to sculpt fur and anatomy in a certain way. And so everything felt from an ancient world in Masters of the Universe, and that was so fascinating.
And that was the thing I wondered was, now in Italy, did you guys have any other specific artists that worked on Masters of the Universe, whether it's some kind of magazines or comics that, somebody we didn't have? Because like you said, okay, we knew Alcala, and we had Texera, and we had Larry Houston. We had many people working on our comics. But I know that in Italy, it seems like, again, you guys had Masters of the Universe a couple more years. So were there specific artists that were famous there for what they did?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say famous, but there were a few artists that worked on the local magazine, on the Masters of the Universe magazine here, and then another magazine that was called Magic Boy. I don't know how it sounds. And
I have a couple of the Magic Boys.
Yeah, and there was Giuliano Piccinino drew a lot of the stories. I met Giuliano a couple of years ago. He's not super famous, but he works in the industry still. He was a sweet guy, and he enjoyed a lot doing Masters of the Universe. And then, other than Giuliano, there was a guy that did some merchandising stuff called Flavio Ferron. And the way I found out, I don't know, do you know the magnetic board? There was like this Grayskull.
It was Magnetics. Was it the one that's called Magnetics? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That was illustrated by this Italian guy. Oh. I didn't know about that. He also did some premium toys for Quick Powder. So I was at school, and there was this one of the teacher, not my teacher, but one of the teacher at the comic book school in Milan, Flavio. And we were talking about Masters of the Universe, and he said, "Oh yeah, I illustrated this magnetic board and the Quick toys." I said, "Really? That was you?" yeah, it was a paid job when I was young.
Yeah, when you said Quick for a second, I was thinking Nestle Quick. I was like, "Hey, I know Jim Steranko did some art for the Nestle Quick can and did that poster." So, okay.
Yeah. That's. But it's So none that became very famous here, because most of the comic we got were from Germany. So we had Michael Goetz, this kind of guys here. But one is very important. There was this other magazine called Pew, which
what's it called?
Pew, which is basically plus. It means plus, but it's the Italian word for plus. It's Pew. It's Piu with a stress. And there were He-Man comics since 1983, I think, and there were a lot, like probably 100 stories. It was a weekly magazine, and almost every week there was a story, like 8 pages, not more. Most of them were illustrated by a Japanese woman. This woman, a Japanese woman that live in Italy.
Okay.
But I didn't find out until very late. I met this woman, which was a Japanese animator. She was an assistant of Tezuka, Osamu Tezuka. She worked on Kimba, Princess Sapphire. I don't think she worked on Astro Boy, but she was around that time. Lot of important stuff with Osamu Tezuka. And she married an Italian guy and moved to Italy. And she did a lot of comics for kids, including Masters of the Universe. Her name is Yoshiko Watanabe. And I met Watanabe senpai years ago. And she was so surprised that I knew her for Masters of the Universe. She's a very funny woman. And she was very sweet. She signed my magazines, and we were talking about, because they were very, very wacky stories. You had they always ended with He-Man like beating Skeletor with the flat sword on the head, or blasting them, and they were jumping around. They were so fun. And the weird thing is now, like, her daughter is like one of my best friends. Like, I'm very
no
good friend.
kidding.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, Yoshiko and Yoko, and it's weird how my life eventually connected me through all these people. And I didn't met her daughter because of the comics. She phoned me asking me for a job for an Italian toy company, and of course she has his her father's name. And then I start thinking about, well, there aren't many Japanese girls in Italy with an Italian last name. I say, are you the daughter of Yoshiko? Yeah, it's me. Okay.
What are the odds of that? What are the odds? I think the
that's-
one famous Italian artist we had here, I don't know if he was famous in Italy, but Tyler, he knows this guy real well, and that's Gino Diachili, and he's the one that did like covers of some of those golden books, like The Trap and stuff. He's the one that his art almost got confused with Earl Norham. Like the one book, The Trap, right? And that was Gino. Yep. I didn't know if Gino Diachili is he known in Italy, or is just maybe he's just an Italian?
Was he Italian for sure, or it was just Italian?
Yes.
And he lived in Italy.
Well, I was going to say, I know that he worked on the, those golden books here, but I was like, I didn't know if he did anything in Italy, or as if he's just known for doing stuff here in the United States.
No, I don't think he was known here.
Okay, because his work is great. I mean, like I said, you can see how it's close to Norham, but I always love that painted style. I was going to pass it to Tyler if he had any questions. Another question for you before we start hitting the chat room, but I'll pass it to Tyler.
I'm just kind of like spent after our homecoming. It was just kind of like, I'm like deflated. Like right now, I'm just kind of like trying to recover from all that. I just it was overwhelming to hear all that, and I feel like we need to have you back to discuss like even more in depth on the MVC stuff too, because of all the stuff that was hinted at that you guys didn't get to elaborate more on, like the Power of Fear comic. I'd love to ask you more about that, because your take on Scareglow was like, holy shit, man! Like, God, that was just
thank you
beyond badass, and the Staction artwork. Like, let me ask you, what's your take on Jitsu? Because I just love discussing Jitsu, and your Staction illustration of Jitsu was amazing. But what do you think of the character? Like, it's just random, but I just love talking Jitsu.
I like the toy a lot. It was just never developed. I mean, in the cartoon was just single appearance. You don't learn a lot of him. There was a story in the German magazine where it was like somebody coming from another land, and at the end is basically F off Skeletor, saying, I don't want to deal with you anymore, and it just because it was beaten by He-Man, so it was not really a servant of Skeletor. I'd love to develop him a lot more. It will. I mean, Scott tried. I mean, he gave him a big role too. I remember, probably because he heard about this stuff from the German magazine where he had a more important role. But yeah, it is the guy that lacked any real background that could be used. I like the take that there was more another guy that worked with the Four Horsemen. I never know if I can mention him or not, but it was our friend George that did the Jitsu Staction, and it's all his ideas. And of course, I can tell he had a lot of great ideas about Jitsu. And he did, I think he also did the classics figures. And I don't know if you remember that the controversy where, other than the sword, the classics figures also had those two little axes, axes.
Yes.
And people were complaining, why they gave them two axes? It makes no sense. It's dumb because you cannot hold them at the same time. And I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't make sense for it because the figure cannot hold them. And I asked George about this. I say, George, why you gave them two? Because he cannot fight with all of them. And the figure cannot. He doesn't fight with them. He throw them. He just pull one and throw, pull the other and throw.
Oh God. Okay.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yes.
I love the staction that he did. I didn't know that he did the entire thing because just like the gigantic hand, all the little jewels.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was wonderful. Was there a meaning behind the jewels on his hand? I mean, that you could think of?
No, I don't know. That you would have to ask Eric straight away because Eric drew this first illustration. I think it's in the Dark Horse art book too. There is the illustration Eric did, but then George took that illustration and really made it something else. So I don't remember if there were all those scratches and scribing and jewel on Eric's drawing. I'm trying to remember, I can't. But that's something that Eric will know for sure.
Definitely one of the most fragile stactions, though. I'll have to say that. Thank God my ponytail didn't break. Is your ponytail intact?
Yes. Yeah, I have two. Well, I got four. I sold two with the ponytail broken, but the two I have are still intact.
All right. Well, now I was going to say, I'm going to pass it to the chat room. If you guys have any questions for Emiliano, you can pop them up in here. And maybe this is now where we can try to bring Nathan back in if he had any previous questions or something he wanted to say while we're waiting for them to pop something up. Wait, Nathan might not be here right now. Okay. I thought he was too. I was waiting because I thought I seen movement on the screen for a second, but well, I'll have to wait. We have a 30-second delay. That's why we always have Nathan do that, because then
I'll send him a message and say, "Hey, are you around?"
Yeah, because I was waiting to see. It's a 30-second delay. I apologize.
I mean, I'm here. I'm just waiting.
There he is.
I'm waiting for the chat room to have something intelligent to say, and so far, no.
Don't be asking Emiliano if you like spam or what his favorite Master for soap dish is or some shit like that. Have some intelligent stuff to ask the man.
I have a favorite soap dish.
Oh, how about that? All right. Well, we don't have to. All right, give him the answer. That way, you're not wasting your time there.
Well, there are just three, so it's pretty easy to pick.
It's Laser Bolt, Dragon Walker, the Land Shark. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So it's definitely the Land Shark because the Skeletor is just too damn cute in the Land Shark.
I couldn't remember if Laser Bolt was the rarest one. I don't know. But okay, let's see. Grimbot said, question for Emiliano. Which Filmation concept art piece surprised you the most?
It depends on what you mean, because like artistically what I like it, or what I like because it exists and I have it or I have seen it, because like I have a folder with 100 sketches of the original characters, so like early sketches of Skeletor, Tila, Trap Joe, He-Man. So of course, I paid a lot for them. Let's say I could have bought a car with that folder.
He said basically, he's like, he meant as in, whoa, I didn't expect that. That's what I guess he meant.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that definitely. But even among those, I think that there are the Tila sketches. There are very rough early sketches where she's younger looking, very funny, like not like serious as she's always is in the cartoon. She's much more light-hearted in her gestures, etc. So I like that a lot. That's some of my favorite pieces.
All right.
All the Filmation stuff I have.
All right, I was going to say, Spider Rat said, was it a pain drawing the 2000X Power Sword in the comics, and would you have preferred drawing the original style sword?
Yes, of course, I would have preferred. It was a pain because, I wasn't as good back then, and it was kind of complicated to get it right with because you change the perspective of the sword all the time, and matching the perspective of that was a pain. So what I did was had this flat shape of the sword, just the outline, and every time I had to draw it, on the layout, I would change this shape to adapt to the actual pose that and the angle that the sword was supposed to be in. So I had this kind of sort of silhouette of the sword in the right perspective, and then I just had to add the thickness and the depth, so that helped a lot. But I had, and also because there was the weird symbol that He-Man had that was on the sword too, so I had to replicate that every time. So yeah, I tried to I used this little device to help me drawing it, but yeah,
that must have been a pain to draw that over and over. Were you a fan of that 2000X sword design, honestly?
No.
No, hey, you don't have to sugarcoat it. Hey, not many people were. It was,
I must say, I'm saying it now because I know that the way I'm saying it is not gonna offend Eric.
It's not being an ass. You're not being a dick to nobody.
Yeah, no, like they know exactly. Also, I mean, their plan was just to to make it like a temporary sword, because Skeletor got a hold of the real one. So when they drew that, it was not supposed to be the real power sword. So, but it was in the cartoon was the real power sword. So for me, that was kind of a blasphemy. So
that was pretty much Mattel's call, wasn't it? They're the ones that decided to make that the new power sword, right?
Yeah. It was the producer of the show, Jan Richter, that made I think all this decision. Well, not sure actually for that, because it was decided for the entire toy line. So maybe it wasn't specifically for the cartoon. But yeah, probably. I mean, I would have accepted as a temporary sword, even liked it, but the fact that it was the real power sword, and the fact that I had to draw it every day for 3 years, that made me hate it a lot. And I mean, and CB was with me. Like, I don't remember if he actually apologized, but he said that he understood that it was a pain in the ass to draw that all the time.
But, all right. I was gonna say, one of our 7-year-old fans, Ivy, has a question for you. She was wondering who is your favorite character to draw?
Orko, always Orko.
Oh no way! Now here, this is the fucking crazy thing, and you think, why am I saying this? But because there's a 7-year-old fan listening. But I don't say it offensively to be mean. But her response was, or her father said, she's hoping that it's Orko. What are the odds that you said Orko? You just made her day. So, bam, that's amazing.
And it's true. I mean, you can go back through a lot of question and answer I did through the years, and I always say Orko. It's true.
That is
it's
amazing,
simple and it's funny.
All right, well, you made her day, so thanks for that. Spike said, Emiliano, if Mattel employed you to relaunch the Powers of Grayskull toy line, what would your first wave consist of?
That's a pretty weird question to ask, because I know exactly what I would do.
All right, hit us.
Because
go ahead.
I kind of planned. Well, when I originally pitched the idea to Super 7 to do Heldor and Hero, I said, let's do a full wave of Power of Grayskull. And I even have the image with the 4 characters, and it was Heldor, Hero, Sharel, and Keldor. I wanted to.
It'd be your Keldor, not a blue Keldor, correct?
Yeah. It's the Keldor that you can see on my page, and the Mad Duck poster that we did some time ago. So they
link that to us later too. I want to see that again. It's been a while since I've seen that Mad Duck poster.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I can link on my page. There is the design for the figure too. So that's probably easier. You'll see him better there, because it's kind of in the shadow in the poster. So that was my idea of the first wave. Now, if we had to do it now, it will be trickier, because let's say somebody gets the license to do these figures again, it will take probably another year, 2 years to relaunch this. So the Super 7 Elder and Hero will be old figures by then, and that's an issue. When you want to launch a line, you cannot really start without the main guys. So I think Hero will need to be reissued somehow. Maybe, I mean, the trick there could be to make his action feature work this time, to rework him, not to do just a straight reissue, but rework it so he has the action feature, which I don't know if everybody knows, but he was supposed to have a spring-loaded arm with a button on his back, and when you push the button, the arm will spring up. This was this was connected to the staff. Now, the staff on the Super 7 release had the right mechanism, and that's an entire other story if we want to talk about. But it had the right mechanism inside, but it was not balanced well, because when you push the crystal down, the weight of the, let's call them petals that close it, should be enough to keep it down. They stay close, and then when the arm goes up, the shaft inside is propelled up, and because of the mechanism that is inside, it makes the petal opens.
Gotcha.
This is how it was supposed to work. Now, I have to give a shout out to my friend Pierre Brauner, which you guys may know him. He actually sculpted some classics figures too. Pierre is a friend of mine that I met at Grayskull Con in Germany, and then also at PowerCon. We do a lot of stuff together, and he helped me figuring out how this thing worked, because it was the one suggesting, look, in the instruction on the back, you see the kids pushing down the crystal and the petals close. And I didn't pay attention to that, because really we have no materials. All this stuff we figured out about Hero was through the instruction and the shape of the weapon. So we had to retro engineer all this thing and understand what it was supposed to do. Unfortunately, it wasn't balanced well enough, so it will stay close. And of course, without the arm movement, it couldn't do what it was supposed to do. But let's say there is a new wave of Power of Grayskull. There could be a reissue of Hero with that. Maybe there could be a whole mini comic with Power of Grayskull Part 2.
Be nice.
And now, I guess I will do Streak. And I don't know, I probably then name it one. Okay. And
definitely a different unnamed one too, I'm sure. Not the one that we got.
No. It would be probably, I mean, even if it wasn't supposed to be the unnamed one, it was kind of like 2 days earlier than Hero. It was sketched 2 days earlier than Hero, so yeah, it will make sense. He had a very interesting action feature too. So I would do that, and later wave, it will make sense to have He-Man, because I think we should have He-Man traveling back in time as a grip for the story. Like exactly as in She-Ra, you had He-Man popping in a lot of times in the cartoon, because kids, the audience from the He-Man cartoon was supposed to be brought in the She-Ra cartoon, so they had He-Man coming on the She-Ra show a lot of times. So, for Power of Grayskull, they set up He-Man showing up in the past, so why not? Probably it will be a different guy, a different version. Maybe it could have a chromed armor too, because it was super powered by Hero in the past. I mean, there could be a lot of cool stuff to do with that line. And of course, you know what? The one thing I would like to do, not just on Power of Grayskull, is just to do new stuff. Like, my dreams is, okay, what would have happened if they kept doing He-Man toys in 88 and in 89 and in 19? and just creating, because honestly, the fun of Masters of the Universe was finding out what was new every year.
Sure.
And in today's toys, this is gone. Not just Masters of the Universe. I'm not talking specifically about Masters of the Universe. This is gone from everything. You don't do new stuff. Even Transformers. Transformers are those characters, but back in the days, Hasbro was creating new characters every year. And now we have to rely on just bringing back Optimus and Bumblebee and Soundwave. And
the same tried and true character. But you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. That's what made it exciting to collect the toys. You didn't know what you were going to get, and it just expanded the universe. You wanted new stuff.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all for that, but I feel like they never put anybody competent in the position to come up with characters who get the mythology or the property. That's why, like, I've always kind of frowned upon it, because they don't put people in charge who could create, like, obviously I trust Emiliano to come up with, a wide variety of heroic and evil warriors, because, like, you don't have to question the logic, because he gets it. Like, he's not going to come in there and come up with some sort of, like, God, this character does not belong, and we don't need to go back down that path again of who we're referring to. But yeah, I love to see new characters, but it's got to be someone who gets Transformers, who gets G.I. Joe, who gets He-Man, or who gets Ninja Turtles, because you can come up with. There's a lot of really bad fan creations out there. Like that, if that's cool from their own idea, but for the masses, like, you got to have somebody who really understands this property.
I understand it's not an easy thing, and people working on this stuff also have a lot of other things to think about, and I'm not obsessed with it, so maybe that's why I get closer to this concept. But also, it's also a market problem. Like, imagine, even if it's done right, I don't think new characters will be that well accepted anyway, even if they're done right. I don't think people will be able to will be able to accept new guys that easily. And if you bring Masters of the Universe to Walmart like they're doing now, and they do, of course, I totally agree, you have to start with the main characters. But let's say they start adding new stuff on Wave 2 or Wave 3. Like that Keldor that won the poll the other week. I don't know. Like, will people buy it? I'm not sure.
I know exactly. No, I'll tell you what, Emiliano, not to cut you off. I know exactly what you mean, because anytime there's some figures that are shown, people usually say, but I want Trapjaw. I want all the stuff I know. And like you said, when new stuff is introduced, they're like, who's this guy? I don't want him. Now, as a kid that could possibly be getting into the line, they don't give a shit. They just want to keep buying the new stuff. They love it. But you're right. As much as we say we do want new stuff, when it's introduced, the fans do nothing usually but complain, saying, I don't know what this character is. I don't want it. But it's almost like with what Tyler was saying. You would hope somebody that gets Masters could create it and make something so damn cool that you wouldn't question it. Because, like, for an example, when Drago Man was introduced, nobody said, that looks like crap and doesn't belong. They said, that's fucking cool. Everybody wanted it. But there were some other characters like Psychop and Sir Laser. Like, what the hell is this? People weren't into it. But I know what you mean. It's hard to get the fans to say, I'm going to buy it when it's brand new. But hopefully, if they just get the essence of Masters and can create it, you would just hope people embrace it. Because I'm with you. I would love to see new stuff, but you wonder, will fans accept it?
Yeah, and I mean, it's nobody's fault, really. You're a kid and you're open to the new stuff, or you're a 40, 45 years old like me now. I understand it's harder to accept new stuff. You love the stuff because it's your memory and your childhood. But like for example, even what I watch on TV now is not like new stuff of the same kind of things I used to watch when I was a kid. I watch a lot less sci-fi stuff. There isn't a lot, to be honest, to watch, but I get to watch different kind of stories now, or read different kind of books. So tastes change, and we have an attachment to what we liked when we were kids. So, and for a company that translates in simply, do we risk putting money into tooling for something that people won't pay? that's a real problem for them. So I understand why they don't want to take the risk. There are ways around it. Like one thing I suggested, sorry, I don't want to. I'll just finish this. What I suggested Super 7, and they were with me with this when they were thinking they were allowed to do it, was okay. Let's do the main characters first, and then like in third, fourth wave, we start introducing concept character or other characters. Like they started doing Shadow Weaver and Evil Seed, for example. And then you get people used to buy stuff that wasn't a toy before, but they knew. And maybe we can do like concept stuff like the Horror Mummy.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
Eventually, by like the wave 8 or 9, you start introducing completely new stuff.
Yeah, completely new. And I think that would help with, like, if, again, when I keep talking about mini comics, that's another important thing, because if you're, whether a kid or even, adults as we are, and we're seeing somebody new in a comic as well, it makes you embrace that character more. It's the same thing like with the cartoons. In the MYP cartoon, nobody questioned that the Faceless One wasn't a cool-ass concept and a cool-ass figure. It's like, damn, that is a cool character. They get it. And when he came in figure form, you fully embraced it. So you would think with brand new characters in toy form, even if they're not going to be in an upcoming cartoon, hell, at least if you have something, whether it's a drawing like you did with your character cards or something, it can make you accept that character a little more.
True. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that you need some sort of media and storytelling on the side to make people like something. Scott was actually right on this stuff. He put some of these new guys in the mini comics, and people now want some of these figures. Some I don't personally like, but people still want them in classic. Of course, now that there is very little chance they will ever get them, but it works. You're perfectly right. It just you put them in a story, you make them alive, and people will start wanting them.
Exactly.
That's true.
All right. Another question. Now this is from Zentron. I'm sure the answer is yes, but he said, "Question for Emiliano: have you ever bought animation cells from He-Man or She-Ra?" He's probably got a shit ton of them, but yeah. Have you?
Yeah, I bought. No, I don't have a lot.
No, I was expecting you probably had a lot of them.
Cell? No, I don't know. I have like 10 probably. I have one background. I have one piece from the commercial.
Oh yeah, I have one too. Yeah, I have one of those commercials. Yeah.
But no, not many cells. Yeah, between 10 and 15.
Well, that shocked me. I was really gonna think you had a lot more, but guess not.
No, because we started buying pencils like model sheet art and concept art, and those I have around 28,000 pieces.
Oh,
wow,
that's insane. That's insane. Oh God. Well, I'll tell you what. Through all that, I know there was a lot of comments. I don't know how many questions. I might have missed some because as we were talking, I know the thing was scrolling up. I don't know, Nathan. Did you catch anything, or that might be kind of the end of the questions? Because they were just into hearing you talk, and they were just doing a lot of comments.
Yeah, that's kind of mostly the end of the questions. But I appreciate that we actually had some good ones this time around.
Yeah, those were good questions. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, Emiliano, is there anything that you'd like to promote? Any of your pages where people can find you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? Anything you want? And pop it here now.
Sure. I mean, through the link that there is in the description of the show, you'll find the album from Homecoming, and that's on my professional page. Something I started doing is not accepting friends' requests on my personal page. I hope nobody gets offended anymore. I just have so many. I just don't keep up. Like 3,000 people I don't personally know. And if you follow my professional page, that's probably better for everybody. So it's really nothing personal. My professional page is where you want to connect with me. It's still there. It's just two separate things, but you'll find me. I'll reply to messages, etc. And I post most work-related stuff. You don't want to see random photos of my town or what I I had for dinner every day, which I do like everybody else. But maybe you're more interested in what I draw, so that my pro page is more about that. Instagram account is kind of a mix of the two things, so you have to bear with the random photos of a wood or boats on the sea, etc.
Okay.
But it's just, I think it's Santalux or Santalux 75. I can't remember right now, but
And Santalux would be ending with 1X or
with
2 X's?
Yes, just one Santalux. Yes. Other than that, I mean, well, the foundation is still trying to get some books done. Always
Great.
very tricky because rights keep changing hands too. So, you deal with somebody and at one point, oh, we don't handle Masters of the Universe anymore. So we have to talk to now. And Dark Horse hasn't been very cooperative in that regard. So we're on our own. We're still trying. We have, this is the book we did in 2011. Let's say I redid it completely and now will be like twice the size with the stuff we have.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and it's kind of done. It just needs to be printed, basically. So we hope to do that eventually. He-Man fans probably know the Mondo stuff that I've been working on. I'm very glad they revealed She-Ra just a couple of days ago. The sketch I did for She-Ra, I did a few others I obviously cannot talk about. That is very exciting working with Mondo because you can do this giant figure with a lot of details and go crazy with a lot of stuff. So, I hope to keep doing them. Of course, I hope that they will keep calling me. I think if they notice that people like what I do, they will keep calling me for this. So show support for those figures. I know they're expensive and they sell out.
They're worth it, though. For people that can afford them, there is a lot of accessories. They are definitely well worth it.
Yeah. Thanks. And it's fun to do it. I had a lot of fun with Brock, Otter Baker, and now it's not anymore with the company, but with the folks over there, I think we'll keep having fun with those. And who knows? To be honest, I have to say I'm sorry that Super 7 cannot do Masters of the Universe anymore. I know there are many folks that are not super fond of what Super 7 did, the quality, the delays, etc. Personally, I think quality improved a lot.
It did improve. And the thing I got to give it to them on those vintage style figures, if anything, I love that they kept the action twist waist, they felt like action figures. And that's something that, while these Origins figures that are coming out look great, they're just articulated. They have no twist punch. They have nothing. They don't feel like an action figure for kids, but, just my opinion, not shooting and shitting on things.
No. It's just a different concept. It's an avatar of an old idea. It's not like a toy. It's a representation of another toy, which is what Classics was too. It wasn't that toy. It was, remember that toy? Here is an idea of that toy, but it's not a toy. With Super 7, what I wished I could have done with them, we never get to that point. I don't know if they would ever allowed me to do, is that I wanted to do toys, and not just a figure of a toy. No, a real toy. I wanted the figures to have action feature, to work exactly like the old toy, even with the limitation of the old toys. Like, let's not do something with Bluetooth, because in the 80s you didn't have Bluetooth. So let's keep it in that realm. And unfortunately, we didn't get to that. They didn't have permission to do different stuff. They were limited to the cartoons, unfortunately. Eldor and Hero, as they said, they were kind of a one-time thing they were allowed to do. We couldn't do more. But the thing is, the artistic freedom that you would get with Super 7, you won't get with Mattel. just because they have different market, different audience, and different purposes. Super 7 could do the wacky thing like the Chaya Pet or the piñata, the Skeletor piñata. This kind of stuff, it was for that specific audience that Super 7 had. And it was, there were issues with some of the figures at the beginning. And I know why, because there was a new things for them they weren't prepared to do. That scale of and that scale and that volume of product, but they had this freedom and they had this mentality like, let's do toys, let's do fun thing, let's stay in the trim, let's give them the twist waist action feature. I mean, Mattel will do their thing. It would have been cool if Super 7 could have kept doing that thing. And we got new art from Errol.
How damn cool was that?
Errol was so happy to do that. Like, he still write me every now and then, say, "Oh, that was so fun to do this again." And of course there were other artists too. Marco Failla helped me again. Emanuele Lupacchino, Adam Moore. We got to use other artists that loved He-Man, and they did the right thing, I think, for the cardback, and weren't trying to do anything new. We just wanted. It was like with the DVD. I wanted people to almost believe these were done in the 80s, for the packaging at least.
It worked. And before I wrap it up, I'll pass it to Tyler so he can have some final thoughts if he wants to say something before we close her up.
I just can't thank you enough for your contributions to He-Man. I mean, from everything you did on Homecoming to various illustrations you'd post on the forums back in the day to the Staction artwork. I mean, all of it is just. I was like, he gets it. I mean, like, I don't have to say anything. He just gets it. Like, I almost felt like saying thank you. Any other time it was just like, he didn't need my praise, man. He's getting to do it. Like, that's the biggest compliment. But it was just so awesome to see such care put into all those characters all those years ago. It left me wanting more. I never forgot it. And even more so now, I may just have to pester you to death, like to get like a concept drawing of what could happen in that part of the story, or when the hordes show up, or something, anything. I mean, it's just, it's incredible, and I thank you for being such a respectful fan who continues to celebrate this property to this day, and it's just it's awesome, dude. I really just can't thank you enough for everything you've done for the fans and for paying so much respect to my favorite mythology. Period. So I'll just keep repeating myself like a broken record here, because I just kind of feel like it's hard to express in words, the impact you had on my perception of He-Man through the comic books, and it just left me wanting. I still want to see you draw Blade. I have yet to see your version of Blade. Like, I want to see how you would draw Blade. There's so many other,
actually, you know what? The pages I did for the final exam were Masters of the Universe 2 in 1998. And there was Blade in it. It was all in the movie. So all the characters had movie costumes, and I drew Blade there. But I don't have those because we had to give them to the school because it was the final exam, so I don't have them. And they were pretty bad. I remember they were pretty bad.
Oh, of course. So if you said Homecoming was pretty bad, like, I can't imagine how badass that Blade was.
Worse. Those were definitely worse. Because
all right. Well, Emiliano, it was great having you on. We appreciate it. And we're definitely going to have you back because there's a lot more things that we can discuss.
Sure.
Yeah, I got so much more I got to ask you, dude. So we'll save that for part 2.
Absolutely. It has been my pleasure. And again, I said it was really that I saw how you guys got what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say. So it impressed me that the message went through and you appreciated exactly certain things that I tried to convey with that work. So I thank you for paying attention and loving my work.
When you do something great, people are going to definitely appreciate it. So, but I wanted to again, and thank you for everybody that was in the chat room, joined us, and glad you enjoyed this episode with Emiliano. People that are new to this channel, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and ring that bell so you can always get notified when we go live. And until next time, have a powerful day.
You want to know something, kid? I don't think this is any synthesizer. There's my movie quote. Emiliano ought to get this one. He better get it.
I actually know it.
Yeah, I got it because I listened the original to the movie in Italian. So the English dialogue I've seen multiple times in English, but I haven't memorized all the English dialogue as well. But to finish, I wanted to apologize for fiddling with my hand all the time. It's something I do when I'm talking, but it's a fun thing to show you what I'm fiddling with. This is a Top Toys paint mask for Webster.
Whoa!
To paint the teeth on Webster.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So I had it here, and I kept fiddling with it. They gave it to me. The owner of Top Toys says, "Oh yeah, take this."
Oh, I wish I had something like that I could just fiddle with. What do I got here? I got a pop that I can fiddle with here, and you got, a Top Toys artifact.
I fiddle with my mask the whole show, so.